Manyame Mawam Sivinge Yibakba Yiba Matanya Chitichuve Miyak Tiltilbe Inya ke Situl ke Kuev ke Metab ke Ba Kyobe Bam U Bam of Soka Ninu Pakabavo Matanya Chitichuve Miyak Tiltilbe Nyavame Bam Uka Bam Wiwa
A Cree Indian prophecy states, when the earth has been ravaged and the animals are dying, a tribe of people from all races, creeds, and colors will put their faith in deeds, not words, to make the land green again. They will be called warriors of the rainbow, protectors of the environment. Our ancestors understood our symbiotic relationship to nature and the elements and foresaw the collapse of an unsustainable world. Traversing time and space, the world's wisdom keepers share their sacred transmissions.
In the beginning, there was the question that started all of creation, the question that Spirit itself asked, who am I? You have come from so very far away, beyond the restrictions of time and space. This began the journey of yourself, of your soul. And so it was that the angels came to earth and took on human form to be in the dimension of slowed down time and space. And so it was that the angels forgot who they were, came to earth to realize what it was like to live within your own creation, where you could see the results of your thoughts and your action and your consciousness. And every one of those experiences has expanded your soul. Every one of those experiences has helped to answer that original question, who am I? So much more than who you think you are. Wake up, dear one. Wake up. As one who has lived hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes on Earth, what a grand opportunity for I, Tobias, to tell my next incarnation about how it got here. What an incredible opportunity for each of us here to join our energies together to tell this story in a way that's understandable or go straight to the heart?
It's always come to the point, do we dare to go on the journey inside?
You have come to this place called Earth to experience what it's like to be in physical form, to be in a human body, to have a mind, to dive deep into all of creation.
Here we are on the river of life, cruising on a starry, blissful night, suddenly hearing bullets whistling above our head. We find ourselves boarded, attacked by pirates. Before you know it, in the tumble of conscious awareness, we find ourselves in the dark depths, slimy hull, hell of their boat, being taken away with an unknown future. All the scenarios went on in my mind, and the shadow was playing out all these dark scenarios of outcomes. The explosion of the ego dropped me like a lift in a shaft, a cable breaking from the mind to the heart. And that was my fruit of the rose, that was my awakening, that moment of surrender.
The fruit of the rose, what you planted in your own consciousness long before you ever came to Earth. A reminder, when the time was right, that you would awaken. It is time to remember.
That voice inside knows, and it's calling. And it's knocking on all the doors because it's time. Maybe there is something I forgot, something from my childhood that I lost along the way.
Now we come to the time of remembering and awakening, your call to come back to yourself. The call to awaken is heard by the ancient memories of your past, by memories that have been pushed away and suppressed, by every part of you.
I'm a dream runner. My job is to run prophecy. I run forwards and backwards in time. What do you have as a memory? Dreaming backwards. Think about what you're going to eat for lunch tomorrow, dreaming forwards. But it's you conscious are traveling backwards and forwards in time from your flesh garment. Our job, run the truth. Run the dream.
We absolutely have to combine with the elders, with the ancient ones. Otherwise, we won't know how to move into the future in a harmonic way so that we can be stabilized and live there. It's essential.
En estas sagradas ceremonias hemos sobrevivido.
And it's because these sacred ceremonies that we have been able to survive.
But
But
es el hilo del destino.
is the thread of our destiny.
Es el hilo de nuestra existencia sobre la paz de la tierra.
It's the thread of our existence here on earth.
Es el cordón de ombligo cuando venimos en el vientre de nuestra
It's
madre.
the umbilical cord that connects us with our mother.
Aquí pedimos nosotros el sexto y séptimo sentido.
Here we ask for the sixth and seventh sense to be developed.
Es el hilo magnético que está sobre la paz de la tierra, que lleva un control de 5,200 años.
It's the magnetic thread that is over the earth and controls time. It has a length of 5,200 years.
The fulfillment of that prophecy, that when the eagle and the condor does fly together again, tremendous changes will take place on the planet.
Rab you rab the chim ji you you should be mute. Ba you when you pam uka you pam the patka was even coming you jay in you pam we woka moja in you muka.
Well, as the eagle is the messenger. Messenger that takes our prayers on its wings with its strength to the Creator. And in return, the Creator instructs the sun to distribute the prayers through its rays, throughout the world.
For us, everything has cycles. The cycle returns to the same point, to the beginning. And at the beginning is harmony. At the beginning is balance. At the beginning is the essence.
The sun is like a living, energetic being. And the dawning of the sixth sun and its heralding of this new age, a golden age, is actually the story of humanity becoming aware of this shift. The heart is like an internal sun.
We greet the sun, and we let the Father Sun touch our inner sun. And from our inner sun awake, we can send this energy, this light to all the cells in our body, the little suns in our cells, awakening all the body so you can experience the light in you, the light that you are.
We keep thinking things take time, and they don't take time, they take alignment. And once things are in alignment, things happen in a quantum way. So our whole understanding of time has to be removed. And this is what the Maya spoke about at the end of time. It's not the end of a clock ticking, it's the end of a concept of understanding the universe.
It's time for horizontal power to be built again, and that as women, we are the ones that know how to do that. The other was solar energy. It was vertical. It was power, right? But vertical power. It was war. That solar energy, that was the fifth age, the fifth sun. The sixth sun now, it's magnetic energy. It's the moon's energy. It's the women's energy. So now it's the time to be in a circle again.
Prophecy that 8,000 drums were going to beat again as one, and that these were not going to be drums of war, but that they were going to signal the healing of the earth, of peace, and the healing of humanity.
Now the ones who have been the elders, the ones who have kept the history of consciousness for humanity, they ring the bells, they beat the drums, they sing the chants, they sound the horns, they line themselves with the crystalline and the electromagnetic and the light energies of Earth itself. They align themselves with the frequencies and the potentials of all of the angelic realms, sounding the call. The time is now, here on Earth. The call to awaken goes deep within every strand of your DNA. Every part of you lights up with the awakening. Every part of you begins the dance of renewal rejuvenation. The ancient ones say that we have held the energy for as long as we can. And it is now up to you, the ones who are awakening, the ones who will help to create the new earth, the ones who will expand their consciousness and serve as the standards for all the ones who will come after them. It is time to awaken.
It's the young'uns that are becoming the guardians of the new earth. It is their sovereign birthright. They're learning the ancient ways and skills that have been forgotten by the white fellas.
When we talk of the journeys that are unfolding, it is going to unfold globally, universally. Everything that is there is going to come into a joining. We have to begin to be very sensitive to that. The ancestors that were of wisdom and the giftings of the mysticism of spirit knew of what was going to happen. Therefore, we know that times are going to be changing. We have the ability to change it. We are coming into a time now where transformation is key.
The four root races need to come together. The red, the white, the yellow, and the black. And that each one has a piece of the puzzle. Without each other, we don't have all of the information. We can't do it alone.
Between one another, we're actually creating that bridge, heart to heart, mind to mind, spirit to spirit. So, and then people to people, you know, and so you see a lot of what they call the rainbow family coming together.
And as the sounds of the indigenous and the elders slowly begins to fade away, it is the time of remembering who you are, why you are here, why you've chosen to be on earth at this time of the greatest change ever. Bless your awakening. Can you trust yourself to allow your own changes to take place? The call to awaken is heard inside, in parts of you that have been hidden for so very long, in parts of you that have been wounded and hurt. The call to awaken is heard by parts of you that are in pain, the parts of you that are crying, the parts of you that want to return home to you.
My mind, I've found, so tightly wound, keeps turning in circles around and around. I seek the straight within the curve, to enter the spine and touch the nerve, rising through direct transmission to pierce the veil of double vision.
The old systems on earth are beginning to dissolve. It's time to begin transforming from the old self into the new. And now the change of awakening gently begins to remove those structures. It begins to soften the old hard ideas and belief systems.
This three-dimensional time is so quickly passing. We cannot exist in this new time if we allow for the present to maintain its status quo.
Only a
going to bring about the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Our political system isn't working very well anymore. Our medical system isn't working very well anymore. And we don't know what to do. And in between the falling apart of the old world and the emergence of the new, whether it's in personal life or on a collective level, there's this sacred space, the space between worlds, the space between stories. Many people are going through that kind of transition today.
The fundamental nature of a human being is wherever he is, whatever he is, somehow his present condition is not enough. He wants to be something more than what he is. Some people are gathering things, some people are gathering money, some people are gathering property, power, pleasure, love, knowledge, it doesn't matter what. So this longing to expand is a longing for the unbounded, because wherever you reach, it's not enough, you want to be something more. Till one knows the boundlessness of his existence, this longing will not stop.
The youth of today know there's something drastically wrong going on. They're not stupid. How do you think they're going to react to some system that they know is done?
We're spiritual beings. Inside us, we have an energy that's invincible. In our mind, we have morals and principles, incredibly strong emotions. To some, they seem invisible. Some of us stand so strong with wide smiles, but inside, we are miserable. Some of us have a spiritual significance beyond human understanding that defines mystical. Now, some of us stand by and watch the leaders of our planet rob large developed countries for their minerals. Me, I decide to stand up for what's right and get lyrical.
The planet's sick, the system's sick, the financial system's sick, the healthcare system's sick. Media, sick.
Meanwhile, folks live in tower blocks for 20 years, but they don't know their neighbours. They don't share knowledge or love. They'd rather act like strangers. And according to the propaganda in the paper, every teenager with a hood might decide to blade you.
Right now, if they read the newspapers and the way the media is reporting the world, I think the youth will become despondent and frustrated that there is no way to live well on this planet. We should not create that hopelessness in the new generation of people. It's very important. The beauty of the world, the beauty of the humanity, the goodness of the humanity, the gentleness of the humanity, the love of the humanity, the compassion of the humanity should also find expression in the media so that there is hope for the youth, and that becomes the ideal, not the violence and the negative aspects of life.
Children, the young people, they're very fresh, they're very much closer to the memory of what life is really about. And they vibrate from that frequency. And if we want to communicate with the youth, then we have to tune into where they're vibrating. If you want to communicate with whoever it is you want to communicate, you have to tune into where they're tuned into, not where you think they should be.
We're all here on spiritual journeys of enlightenment. You'll find out sooner or later with every step on this journey I walk, I seem to get more persistent and braver. More passionate and determined, now I'm striving for greater. And I can't even describe the energy inside me that drives my being. That's nobody. All I know is I'm going to make a huge difference in this world. And nothing's going to stop me.
So when we have younger generations saying we're being betrayed, this has to be addressed. In fact, they're speaking on behalf of past as well as future generations.
It no longer can be safely assumed that in a democracy the government takes care of its people or of the voter base, basically. But it's become very clear that government has its own agenda. It's a power structure. It's a failing power structure that is no longer supporting its own base.
Time to change. Time to change. I call it the rules of the game of life. It's how we choose our terms of governance, terms of agreement as to how we engage with the world.
just before the invasion of Iraq. Do you remember the millions who came out? I mean, it started out in the East, and it was like waves of humanity. And it was people who could quite easily have said, this has got nothing to do with me. They didn't. They said, we care. We want to give peace a chance. Most people want peace.
The governments of the world really seem to be stuck in the love of power.
If you cannot bring peace to your own mind, where is the question of bringing peace to the world?
The beat of a butterfly's wing can, at a critical moment, create a hurricane on the far side of the ocean. But, you know, are you going to be aware when there's a critical moment at hand? No, you just got to be beating all the time. You've got to be the butterfly all the time.
To wash away the layers and the layers of difficulties and challenges and pain. It begins untying the knots, breaking the coils, releasing you from your own prison. And it all comes from within. Welcome the changes into your life.
There is a vibrational change going on, which is teasing people's range of frequencies open.
It's almost like a dial of a radio. You know, you can hear about this much at certain frequencies, and as you tune the radio a little bit higher up on the dial, you hear other radio stations, and it works the same way with dimensions. The more you create a vibrational field and bump up the frequency of vibration, the more levels of reality you perceive. And all these levels of reality are totally real on their level of reality. It's just that we can't see them.
It's a critical mass of awakened people that will help the whole of the planet grow in awakening themselves and create this shift of consciousness on the whole planet.
This next 10-year period is a crucial period in which we have to, as embodied beings, step to the next level of collective consciousness.
So the future is being created every instant by the choices of the collective consciousness. As the mass consciousness chooses a certain scenario, we kind of walk down that timeline.
We have an explanatory framework for interpreting the world. You know, we have a story we tell ourselves about what's real, who am I, how to live life, what's important, you know, how to do things. And all of a sudden that story doesn't work anymore. Why do we think that in this time of crisis that the solution is going to be more urgency, more efficiency? Maybe sometimes we have to do less. I think it's important to be comfortable in that empty space and allow it to ripen. If you don't know what to do, maybe you shouldn't do anything. And just wait for the clarity and wait for the impulse to act.
As you begin to trust yourself, it literally changes every part of you, every electromagnetic portion, every spiritual vibration, so that you begin attracting new things to you. Can you trust yourself to allow your own changes to take place? After many, many lifetimes on your hands and knees, after many lifetimes of ceremony and religious rhetoric, You got very, very tired of the religions. You saw what was happening. The mind was taking over. Religions were losing their hearts. Religions were becoming very dogmatic and rote.
I think there's always been a unified spiritual path that's called being human. We've just become incredibly wound up in the wire of our own traditions and become attached to them in the worst possible sense. If we look at the Buddhist understanding of attachment, we've become terribly attached to them, so attached that we don't feel we can function, live and breathe without them. That's not a liberation. That's not a liberation into a loving, conscious state. That's a slow death.
As long as the mind is talking and chattering, then we're caught up in a loop that is self-created. And so when that dissolves, we have the possibility of seeing something different. And then the mystical traditions say that when the mind ceases, when we enter that state of quiescence, that we have the opportunity to glimpse the self or the soul.
We've got to get the left brain out of the driving seat.
It's, if you like, the movie screen in the theater that we're watching. When you get back to the projector and you see where it's coming from, the foundation of all control, no matter what form it takes, is control of human perception and the manipulation of human perception. And the more that you can shut people's multidimensional awareness down and lock their decoding perception process into the five senses, the easier they are to control.
For those who think humanity is headed on a bad path right now, stop for a moment and realize that by healing the past, tomorrow is different, because it's no longer the path of karma or destiny. It becomes a path of choice and imagination. The mind is such a perfect place to escape having to deal with the love of yourself.
You have to go inside yourselves and start listening and learn about something much deeper than changing policies and moving money and lowering the base rate. And it's just not going to work. It doesn't work.
There's been a filter on the right brain half of human beings. At the current time, we are living in a new level when it is pulse by pulse the right brain half that's being strengthened. Not only will the dominance of the left brain culture come to an end, but also the dominance of the Western Hemisphere.
When a well-packaged and managed web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses, the truth will seem utterly preposterous, and the speaker a raving lunatic.
If you are a left brain dominated person and you meet a right brain person or a whole brain person, you're going to think they're crazy or off the wall or extreme, because you're decoding reality in a completely different way to them.
You can occupy your mind with facts and figures so you can forget about loving you. You can build this false temple of the mind to pretend that you're smart, or to pretend that you know things, but you're still running and you still know it.
There is a side to the human condition that will always want to remain in the dark, remain in the shadows. It takes a lot of courage to look at the more negative aspects of yourself. Simply turn around and take a look and say, okay, this is part of me. There is gold in the dark.
As you know, a light falls on an object, it casts a shadow. The shadow reminds us that we are souled beings. That shadow that we have cursed, that shadow that we have run from, that shadow that we blame for putting us into this endless cycle of lifetimes, is our divinity, is our soul. The inward-looking self, it is just there loving you. Taking everything of this external expression and transmuting it into depth of the soul, into a light beyond light, into wisdom that is eternal.
Going beyond duality is one of the keys. Now, one of the masteries of the mystery schools in Egypt is to understand the alchemy of mankind and what we're capable of, and look at it as a scale. And we can tip it any way we want. The key behind becoming a master or achieving a level of mastery is to bring balance to chaos. And we literally weave creation within that process of the chaos.
It is an illusion that there is good or bad, dark or light. It is an illusion that there is up and down. For every one of these illusions is just a form of duality. Duality is a mirror for you to see yourself, the darkness within you. It causes you to take a look at your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities, old belief systems that you could be taken by the devil as well as you could be taken by God. Old belief systems in opposing forces. A belief since nearly the beginning of time that there was duality. All of this causes a type of fear and a type of closure, which holds that belief system even so much tighter. And that belief system, that illusion, creates the duality that you experience in your everyday life. It is time to let those illusions go by the way. For there is no dark and there is no light. It is only consciousness. There is no heaven and there is no hell. It is only consciousness. There is no right and no wrong. There is only consciousness. And within that consciousness is love. It is a bold step to release the need to have opposing forces in your life to create the illusion of reality. Are you ready to release opposing belief systems? Are you ready to accept the oneness and the sovereignty of yourself? Take a deep breath.
I can see it clearly. All this pain, addiction, suffering has been of my own creation. I've been stealing, lying, and fighting with myself and with others. For years I have been destroying my body with momentary pleasures, filling that empty hole inside to cover up my dissatisfaction with life.
I never did believe in myself when I was younger. And I suppose that's because you can't see the light that comes from yourself. Because you are inside looking out. You can see your own light. When you see the light you create in the ones that you are dealing with, and the words that come from your spirit comes free, comes out, and you see the spirit get lined up inside of them, and you see the glow. And you say, wow, only glow can create glow. So if you spot it, you got it.
To heal your wounds, you really just need to be unafraid of what you've experienced. We have to remember that we've already been through those things and we've survived. Straight up. You know, like here we are. We've still survived. Yes, those wounds have affected us severely and have shaped our lives in all sorts of ways. But once you get the courage to reface your wounds again
and bringing all of your intelligence of everything that you've gained through your life to that, it gives you the strength to dive into all of your pain and all of your wounds and to be able to just reprogram yourself from within. You can't avoid it. You have to go through it. You have to like eat it and breathe it and roll around in it, and it's like just get into yourself, however it takes. And it takes time and patience and a lot of compassion for yourself. And it's not easy, but it's well worth it.
When any emotions and feelings are suppressed in the body, they can form a huge energetic cauldron that needs to be released.
What if you allowed yourself to connect back to your shadow and to your divine, to be here on earth as a fully conscious, trusting, and aware angel?
The shamans in South America, they call it the truth medicine. When you take ayahuasca in a ceremonial space, it aligns you with truth. It knows what you need, and it will bring up within you what you need to purge, what you need to let go of. It's a vine and it's a plant mixed together that creates this magic, this alchemy that allows you to let go of these things.
What matters is that we understand that purging is part of the natural process of growing. You know, I know in lots of indigenous traditions where they take medicines which actually help you to vomit up these energies which no longer serve you. People call it getting well.
So what happens is when you take the blend of these two plants, the vine prevents the enzymes in the stomach from throwing out surplus DMT, so that it goes through the stomach wall and into the system. It takes about half an hour or an hour to work, depending on the strength. It's a solo journey. It depends what you're taking it for. Whatever it is, it's just not a recreational drug. You would not do it for fun. Put your intention into the brew, knock it back, and keep your fingers crossed.
Plant medicines. Now, there are many plant medicines. There are some plant medicines that are for the physical, some are for the mental, some are for the mind, and some are for emotional. But there are some plant medicines that we take that allow us to travel forward and travel backwards in time. What some people would call astral travel.
people had great reverence for the plants. They actually spoke to the plants, and they had the ability to see the energy of plants. They could tell you which plants were poisonous, which plants were edible, which plants were good for different ailments. And they could also see the power plants. And the power plants are endowed with divine energy. And these plants are here for a reason, and they're to help elevate the consciousness of humanity.
I'd have to add a lot of caution in around the use of medicine plants and everything like that, straight up. I think they're essential at certain stages of your development. Too early or not in the right space or done in the wrong way, in a way that's unsafe for your growth, is irresponsible behavior, I think. And I really don't think that people should enter into using plant medicines without somebody who's got a lot of knowledge of what's going on and is able to hold space for them as they enter through a new doorway.
The plant medicines help greatly, because the plants, when you walk the path of plants, they think that we are getting drunk, that we are getting drugged, that we are getting this. My dear people, listen. There is a massive difference between medicine and drugs.
Well, if you use those tools and then allow them to then resonate through the rest of your life and actually integrate it, then they're super powerful. If you use it as a crutch to think that that's going to liberate you in some kind of way, that it's going to somehow magically heal you, and that's not what they're about. And they're not that sort of crutch. You can't avoid doing your work. That's what it comes down to.
Peyote helps raise consciousness in various forms. One, peyote is a heart-opening plant. And the name itself, peyote, means to light up the heart. And I believe that consciousness really comes from not only the mind, but from the heart. And in this sense, peyote increases your compassion to feel love, to feel compassion, and I feel that's the true source of consciousness.
We can stretch time and space, cosmic highways. And when we take certain medicines, we can travel all the way forward and all the way back, and we lock into spiritual DNA. Our cellular memory is in line with our ancestors. We merge the two to become one.
Why the indigenous people and the people of culture and rooted to Mother Earth would participate or utilize the sweat lodge is for primarily purification. It's a cleansing of mind, body, and spirit. It's a place that we can go to in the complete stillness of the dark. Go back into the womb of the mother to humble ourselves, to be back with mother, to be in that wombing area where we've originated from.
So there are many different methods for elimination, for purification. We have traditional methods, which are things like sweat lodges, things like purification ceremonies that have been taken place for centuries, but are still very rooted in our bones. And there are medicine plants that are traditionally used in indigenous tribes, ayahuasca, peyote. These are very, very powerful nature plants carrying nature spirits that will help us to move through those processes.
It's going to turn your life inside out and upside down for a very short period of time. It's going to sometimes even bring what you would call your final spiritual crises while you are in human form. For some of you, a most challenging experience, but it's part of the process of the transmutation of energy. You can make this choice right now to release yourself from the karmic merry-go-round. With a tear in your eye and a song in your heart, let suffering be a thing of your past. shadow.
The Gates of Mercy is not just a physical location here in the Holy City, but is to me a spiritual location of opening the gate of mercy in the heart itself, the eastern artery of the heart, and that when the gate of mercy flows, which is the divine grace, that anything that's ever been done is forgivable, that we are loved in spite of anything we've ever done. This is the divine love of who we are. This is the knowledge that Christ, when he was crucified, said, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. This is where he became illumined and resurrected. This is the moment we all go through when we go through a crucifixion in our daily life and have to rise above that with a love that is greater than anything else. And that when we get this gate of mercy opened in ourselves, then the water comes. And we know when the heart gets truly opened, not falsely open, but truly open. There's always tears. People always cry when they're touched in the heart, when we're moved so deeply in the heart. And when that grace is showered out from the heart and those waters begin to flow, I consider that the rain, that greens things. That's the greening of the heart and the greening of compassion.
You're a human being. At least in comparison with other animals, you're human. So it's best that you strive to take this humanity to its ultimate nature. If your humanity overflows, divinity inevitably happens. If you have not allowed your humanity to reach its peak, divinity is just an empty talk. It's up there. If you allow your humanity to reach its very peak, divinity is a living reality for you.
Don't let anybody kill the love in your heart. When you see the world, see it with the eyes of your heart. Don't see it with the eyes of somebody else. See them with yours.
I also had the beautiful opportunity to hear Desmond Tutu speak about the Truth and Reconciliation process in South Africa. And you think, my goodness, if they can do it in South Africa, I said to myself, what does this mean for Native America? How would we participate in a process like this?
The story of the opening of the heart is a deep, deep science as well as a deep spiritual and psychological mystery. So once we learn collectively that biologically as a planet we have enough force, as it were, to pray, literally to make our hearts beat together, we can create the electric field that holds us together, the heart of the matter, as it were.
The role of humans is essentially to be part of the awakening of spirit in matter, the curators of this living energy in the physical world. And so the sixth sun is the story of that awakening. And when humanity awakens and is heart-centered, they become part of the living biocircuitry of the planet.
Is the heart a portal? Yes, it's a portal. Now, inside the sacred space of the heart is a frequency, a vibration that is spoken about in the Vedas, in Sanskrit, in the Upanishads, and which they call Om. And to the 5,000-6,000 years ago, Om, the meaning of Om, was the frequency that could be felt, sensed, heard, and in some cases even seen within the heart. And that frequency, according to the Upanishads, is older than creation. It is the oldest, closest thing that we can touch God with.
Part of the dilemma we have is that our philosophy and our religious concepts separate us. And so the ancient cultures have a different way of viewing things. So as a Western culture, we're having to incorporate some of the ancient ways in a new or modern context, because sound transcends a lot of of language barriers and cultural context. And the beautiful thing in terms of the brain is that pure sound, we know, activates the non-dominant hemisphere. And so there's a chance to loosen up our perceptual world through sound.
Genetic science and biochemists have been using 528 Hertz frequency in order to heal damaged DNA. It's known also that if the DNA structure dries, it starts to lose its structure. So we hydrate the body. And the best way to hydrate the body is drinking living water. And living water is to do with the hexagonal shaped molecule. We do need to transmit 528 Hertz frequency into the water, into our water in the body, or into the water that we drink, in such a way that our body will be properly hydrated.
How do you live a divine life and be human at the same time?
Just follow your heart, your prayers. But leave something in return, before you leave your prayers. And the simple thing is your gratitude. As women, asquale. As men, kwakwa. Or say it in your own language, your prayers, but that's how we say it here in Hopi, Kwakwa, kwakwa.
Gratitude is the most